Hello horror fam, my name is Johnny and I support horror. Continuing spooky season by watching horror movies every single night. Well, I think for most of us it's more like year round. But anyway, this week I watched another horror comedy movie called Vampires vs. the Bronx. The title alone made me want to watch it, so I did without watching a trailer or looking at a synopsis really. So let's talk about it, horror fam. Vampires vs. the Bronx is a horror comedy movie that was recently released to Netflix and written and directed by Oz Rodriguez. Blaze Hemingway was a writer as well. This movie follows a group of friends, Miguel, Bobby, and Luis, who all live in the Bronx of New York City. They're currently trying to save a bodega in their neighborhood that they all hang out at after school. The bodega is in danger of getting snatched up by Murnau Properties, a shady real estate company that's buying up all the shops and properties in the Bronx. The boys come to find out that Murnau Properties is run by vampires and they're trying to move in, take over, and eliminate all the residents of the Bronx by any means necessary. Now Miguel, Bobby, and Luis have to take on these bloodsuckers themselves because the whole neighborhood does not believe the vampire story. Okay, first of all, I have to say this movie had all the nostalgia of a coming-of-age, buddy adventure, youth horror movie. But it was refreshingly different than many of the ones we've seen before. Most films where a group of kids take on vampires or a monster or what have you, they come from the suburbs or like a big wide open area, riding their bikes in the bare streets, you know, with all the red and orange leaves on the ground, the crisp air. Movies like It, The Lost Boys, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, and the popular Netflix series Stranger Things. In this movie, we're on the streets of the Bronx in New York City, a place that has character, you know, a little more rough, which I think gives our boys some edge. Bobby, Miguel, and Luis are a little more cunning, you know, even though they're a little cautious, maybe sometimes afraid, but they have that thick skin and drive to go up against anybody, even if it is a vampire. This is a great gateway vampire film to show younger people who are just getting into horror or curious about it. Even with a PG-13 rating, it was still good to watch as an adult too. There wasn't too much bad language, and even though there was deaths in this movie, it wasn't overly gory, nothing too traumatizing, and I'd say the overall tone was more uplifting and light. But let's talk about our vampires who work for Murnau Properties. Yes, Murnau Properties, which is a great nod to director F.W. Murnau, who directed the famous silent vampire flick from 1922, Nosferatu. That nod to Nosferatu also existed in one of our main vampires who would lurk in and out of the shadows very slowly. There's a scene where this particular vampire emerges and slowly drapes his long white fingers over someone's shoulder. Going back to the nostalgia feel, it was fun to watch these boys learn about the vampires, how to repel them, and ultimately kill them. One of the boys, Luis, who played the more nerdy and humorous one of the group, seemed to have a lot of knowledge about vampires and how to kill them. These boys watched the movie Blade, you know, with Wesley Snipes' vampire movie, to take notes, as if it was a training video on how to kick some vampire ass. And I would say it is. I just loved all the nods to the older vampire flicks in this movie. But if there's one thing that sticks out in this movie a lot, and I believe they did in a tasteful way, is the obvious nod to gentrification. You have all these blood-sucking vampires, which is a metaphor right there for them leeching off the neighborhood, who are white, buying up all the properties in the stores in the Bronx to push people out. And the people, the residents of the Bronx, you know, they're mainly Latinos, Black, Asian, pretty much any race that isn't white. Now the vampires, of course, take it one step further and they try to, you know, eliminate and kill some of the property owners. And what's their reasoning for wanting to take over the Bronx when they could have chosen any other area? They blatantly say it in the movie, which is an extreme low blow to all the Bronx residents. The vampires say they think nobody will know or care if any of the residents of the Bronx go missing. Now, if that doesn't make you hate these vampires even more, I don't know what will. And with 45 minutes left in the movie, you know, things are looking pretty bleak for our boys. Of course, nobody believes these little troublemakers that there's a nest of vampires trying to take over the Bronx. Oh, one funny thing they threw in here to make fun of the vampires, and I appreciated it. When these vampires would try to appear nice to the residents and try to fit in more, they would try this sort of of street talk. It was so cringe, but also humorous. I believe a couple of these really pale white vampires tried the old, "oh, no doubt," you know, when they're talking to the residents, or my favorite one, "real talk." It's just like, oh, just don't even try to act like that. But I know it's just part of the humor in this movie, so I rolled my eyes, but, you know, laughed at the same time. It was cool to see how much these boys loved the bodega that they were trying to save. You know, it's just a tiny little convenience store. But these boys don't have much, and, you know, their parents work all the time. And the guy who ran the bodega, he looked after these boys like they were his own until all of their parents got off work and they could go home. There's a nice little arc in this movie with the neighborhood, the community. At first, I thought these kids were crazy, you know, but kind of rose up to the occasion to try and save their neighborhood, their home. To me, that spoke a message of, even if your home was a little rough, a little run down, you make the best of it and defend it because it is home. The final showdown may have been a little bit underwhelming, but I love how these boys chose to go into the belly of the beast, the main nest where all the vampires live, to try and take them out. Very similar to what the kids did in It and The Lost Boys. I say check out Vampires vs. the Bronx. You know, it's geared more towards the youth, but it's a movie adults can like just as much, you know, if you're looking for something a little less graphic and more fun. It's streaming right now on Netflix, so get on it, horror fam. Okay, my friends, I am out of here for now. As always, thanks so much for coming by and watching this video, watching all my videos on my channel. If you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, I hope you do so now. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And let's be friends to the end. You know you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at The Horror Hack. Once again, my name is Johnny. Keep supporting horror, and this has been one hack of a show.